Man, what up? It's your guy Craig. And welcome to this 7th installment of Charge It to the Game. And I know it's been like a month, but don't act like y'all haven't seen me. I've been around other platforms, so I've not been completely MIA, just not on my own channel. But I assure you I'm going to do better about that. When I first got this thing kind of off the ground, it was always intended to just kind of be an outlet for me to get any of my thoughts and opinions out regarding the Chargers. So there wasn't really a schedule for it. It was just kind of like, free and loose, shooting from the hip. Whenever I wanted to get on here, I would. Because again, you have other places you can see me regularly. And, I'm a family guy, got a lot going on. So spreading myself amongst multiple platforms can be a bit daunting at times. But I have a commitment to myself and you guys here. So again, I will do better. Outside of that, enough about me and what's going on over here. You guys tapped in to hear what I have to say about the Chargers and what they have going on as of late. So, yeah, I'm just going to tell you right now, this might get a little spicy, but I don't care because also told you from the beginning, I am not here to be a people pleaser. Ultimately, who really wants somebody who's a kiss, you know what? Yeah, I know that's corny that I didn't actually complete the phrase, but something else to know about me. Guys, I really don't curse. I know y'all see me on Twitter using the poop emoji a lot. It's kind of for effect, but if you have a conversation with me, you won't hear me use profanity. Just not a lot of what I do. Am I some sort of super perfect, squeaky clean dude? I never claimed to be that. Spiritual guy, I have my beliefs, codes and standards, morals, just some stuff that I don't do. If you do, I don't judge it. Everybody's different. You got your own journeys. But again, back to football. Lately here, I've been kind of trying to be on like my Zen stuff because, man, some of the stuff that I see out there in regards to this team, really, really frustrating. So I'm trying to evoke more of the Zen mentality. Zenny Craig, Zen Kreia, Zenjamin Banneker, if you will. You can refer to me however you choose. But realistically, let me get something out of the way. That's kind of been chapping my hide for a little bit, man. What never ceases to amaze me? It's that you can notice a pattern of activity and connect some dots just based on verifiable evidence. You can come to like an objective conclusion, and since you won't just kind of believe like hive mentality, groupthink stuff, you get labeled like a hater. I don't know where that comes from. It's just not something that I'm into. It's not a thought process that I subscribe to, because I've always been taught to think for myself. What am I getting at? Well, in regards to this team, Brandon Staley clearly has input on roster building, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Here's my gripe though. All of the people that seem to have like this thing for caping for Tom Telesco, John Spanos, whomever, and they think they're like above reproach when it comes to the possibility that someone could actually be meddling with personnel in the roster. That whole Kaiser situation doesn't sit right with me, man. I'm just being honest with you about it. For him to go to the Eagles for what amounts to right now, like $3 million up to $5 million, that's a drop in the bucket for the Chargers and what they have remaining in cap. Now, that was your best performing linebacker last year. Now, everybody's like, and I've heard it a bunch of times, well, Staley said this, and why would he lie about that? But Brandon Staley also said after that Raiders loss that I hate to have to keep revisiting. When asked about why Kaiser White was out of the game for a Kenneth Murray, and he said that Kenneth Murray was their best coverage linebacker. Now, okay, great. I get that we all love Brandon Staley. Well, most of us are fond of him for his football mind, acumen, and just seems like a really awesome guy, right? Somebody you want to sit down and like have a beer with, or whatever your beverage of choice, just kick it with, talk some ball. But who believes that? Just do the history. Kenneth Murray, from his time in high school through Oklahoma, you can look at any write-up you want about what his strengths and weaknesses are. And one of the primary issues you will see, one of the things you won't see nowhere that I've looked, and with him being a Texas kid, I've kind of followed him a little bit longer. His strengths were never in pass coverage. Now, also, let's just say you had no prior knowledge of him before his NFL career up until this point. If you watched him snap for snap, he's played, there's nothing to suggest to you that he is a good defender pass coverage. Not a thing. I mean, you could lie to yourself about it if you like him enough, but if we're just being realistic here, where's the proof? So that should be a red flag for you. But the fact that Kaiser White you can kind of compare it to possibly Drew Tranquill. Those are going to be your two best coverage linebackers. But to have him out of the game at that point for a guy who had played poorly all year long, for whatever the reasons are, whether it be the fact that he's playing a position that he's not quite equipped to be in because of, the processing that goes along with it, the fact that he's not very good at shedding blocks, he's not much of a read and react guy, he's more of just a downhill attacker. You can call him sideline to sideline. I mean, he'll run like crazy, like a madman from sideline to sideline, but he also lacks short area quickness and change of direction. So if you have somebody that has any decent agility and acceleration, they're going to make him look silly in the open field. Story for another day, though. I'm getting a little sidetracked here. The point is, to claim that someone can do something that there's zero evidence of, to me, sounds like someone who's trying to cover something. And then you get into the postseason, you let Kaiser walk. There are those tweets that came out between he and someone else, which is, by the way, super dirty that you would post that for everybody to see. I don't know if he just assumed that was going to be a private conversation and not get out, but it's pretty kind of snaky on your part to drop that on Twitter, whoever that was. The Chargers didn't show any interest in the offseason in regards to him. Just didn't seem like there was ever really a viable option for him to return. Now, you can go also back to, I guess, a little bit about what the idea behind the linebacking core is, and the fact that Staley doesn't necessarily value, I'm not going to say not completely, because they're part of the defense. They just fall like third in regards to the levels. First level, your front defensive lineman, edge guys are going to be like 1A, 1B. With the secondary, those are the two most important aspects of the defense. Linebackers fall somewhere behind all of that. Now, you can't just have warm bodies back there. You want to have dudes that have some sort of ability, but let's also keep in mind here, if we go back to the Chicago days, linebacker was clearly important because in Staley's year, what was it? Was he there 2 years? How many years was it? He was there when they drafted homeboy. Give me a second. I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. Played next to Danny Trevathan, a linebacker from Georgia. Pardon me. I don't have no idea why I can't remember this dude's name right now. Roquan Smith. So they valued linebacker enough to draft Roquan Smith in that very same defensive system in 2018. They valued him enough to draft him 8th overall. So that doesn't really jive with the whole linebackers aren't important thing. Now, when he was with the Rams, they had an attrition issue. So they had to kind of shovel some dudes in there that they weren't necessarily expecting to play. And it just kind of worked out because here's the thing. When you have Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, kind of makes things work a little bit better because you can cover some deficiencies. And the way that they move Ramsey around allowed for them to do that. Whether him being in the star position, him playing out wide, a little safety, sometimes some linebacker stuff. You can mix and match some things and just make it work. And let's be honest, Aaron Donald makes everything work a little bit easier. But I digress. My larger point here is the thing that's kind of been really annoying me, like I said before, and having a difference of opinion and just kind of being a person that follows breadcrumbs. And I have to allude back to something that we've discussed a bunch of times before. But, I mean, I'm not going to ignore it. You can choose to if you want. Perfectly up to you to do so. Have your own opinions, thoughts, and feelings about it. It is what it is. I don't judge. I mean, who am I to do that? Danny Woodhead, Matt Slauson. Yeah, we got to go there again. Why? Because I'll tie all of this in. It'll make sense here in a second. Go ahead and complain and say that Matt Slauson was probably just bitter. Okay, great, cool. Well, not heard about that dude being an albatross anywhere else he's been. Heard no complaints about him as a locker room guy. Nothing negative about him. Only glowing reviews. Then you got Danny Woodhead, who's like Mr. America. All-American guy. Awesome teammate. Never a disparaging thing said about that man. Never once heard anything about it. What reason would these two gentlemen with sparkling NFL resumes and background have to lie about in regards to the same organization? Granted, they've played other places. You didn't hear them say anything weird about those spots, but just this particular organization. But let's fine. Ignore that too. You move on to this Kaiser thing and you see what they let him walk for, and then you realize he's the best linebacker that they had on the team, and it would have cost them next to nothing to re-sign him. And then you realize it makes absolutely no sense. If Kaiser was demanding something crazy, or his market was that great to where he was going to make a significant amount more, then yeah, I guess, you let him walk because you can't pay everybody. But then there's that whole mantra of draft, develop, and re-sign. And then you look at crap like this, and then Adrian Phillips, and you start to kind of wonder a little bit. Well, those stories we heard from those two other players stacked up with the Phillips thing, and then now the Kaiser White thing. And if you elect to just be willfully ignorant to stuff like this, then fine. Again, like I said, it's your business. I don't care. I'm not. But you're also not going to try to make me feel like or seem like some sort of conspiracy theorist because I follow the breadcrumbs. I'm just not going to allow myself to be silly enough to believe that nothing could be going on. Oh, and by the way, I'll wrap this up because I've kind of gone on a bit about it a little bit longer than what I initially planned on. A little tidbit of information. I'm also not just saying this out of pure speculation. Do with that what you will. So, without further ado, let's talk about some other more pressing matters, right? This offseason has been one hell of a ride thus far. The brakes have been pumped on it here recently, and for what seems like an eternity now there have been no real moves. And Chargers have a bunch of needs still left. We don't know what the right tackle situation is going to be, although Matt Filer has been discussed as moving to right tackle, which is something I was a proponent of last season. When Storm Norton was getting smacked around and I was in fear for Justin Herbert's life and well-being, I thought that they should consider moving Filer over to right tackle because he has experience there from his days in Pittsburgh and he fared quite well. I know that the whole thing was about continuity, and for some reason, I don't know, for whatever reason it is, they were afraid of putting homie at left guard. And again, I'm drawing a blank. What's dude's name? It's late, y'all. I'm recording this kind of late, so I'm a little foggy. Brendan Hymas. Bang. Thank you. They were afraid to stash or place Hymas in between Lindsley and Rashawn Slater, which to me, initially I get it, it's a little weird, again, for continuity's sake. But then you think about the fact that you go through half a season plus and then you realize that you got something special at left tackle. And we already know that Corey Lindsley is an all-pro level player. And if you watch the preseason, Hymas had some snaps. Yes, I know it's preseason, but still. Next to Slater, and they were wrecking crap on that side. But again, if Hymas wasn't ready, whatever. Ibushi goes down. You got Schofield over there who did okay. Could have been worse. But again, the talk now is that they may potentially move Filer moving over going into next year to the right tackle spot, which is, again, perfectly fine. Ultimately, I would prefer that over the second tier of the best first round right tackles or offensive tackles in this year's upcoming draft. Because if Charles Cross were to fall to 17, I'd be fine with that pick. I do not want Trevor Penning. No disrespect to homeboy. I mean, I could see him being a first round guy. Back of the first round dude. I could justify that. I'm not taking Trevor Penning at 17. Not from what I've personally seen watching him. I watched several snaps of his. And dude has this thing about being the meanest, toughest dude on the field. Technique-wise, he needs a bunch of work. But what scares me the most about Penning's game is his lack of bend. He's extremely stiff. Going up against speed rushers, especially with the gauntlet that exists in the AFC West now, since everybody's loading the hell up, you're probably going to have to spend way more resources chipping, sending a running back to his side, keeping a tight end over there in specific games, which is going to affect your game plans. And you don't want a liability on that side of the line. I mean, kind of takes away from what you can do in regards to a game plan. I would much rather have Fowler over there. Now, I mean, even if you have Cross over there, Cross is more of an athlete. You might be able to skate a little bit more with him being able to kind of move a little bit better, be a little bit more flexible at the position. But I'm all about having Fowler kick over to the right tackle side. And also, again, you're not necessarily pigeonholed with what you have to do in the first round, because that is the absolute last thing I want to see is another Tom Telesco situation where he tells us that he's going to go into the draft with the idea of selecting the best player available when we all know there is a very specific position of need, and watch him take whatever's remaining at that position. Now, do you think you're going to luck up into another Rashawn Slater situation here as you did last year? I wouldn't bank on it, because that luck is eventually going to run its course. It happened with Derwin. It happened with Slater. I mean, they got Joey at 3 overall, so I'm not really going to call that luck of the draw. But we definitely lucked into Justin Herbert, because we all know what everyone wanted. We know the direction that they probably wanted to go in, even though they tried to make us all believe that he was the dude all along, which I ain't buying. But again, believe whatever you hear, because why would they lie to us? I mean, of course that organization is forthcoming about everything they do. It's just not what I want to see. Go ahead, kick Fowler over, re-sign O'Day to play right guard, and give Hymas a shot at left guard. And you can go ahead and fill in some holes there in regards to depth, either after the draft with some free agents, or if there's some players hanging around in the middle rounds, you can go ahead and get some depth going and develop those guys as well. It's not necessary for the Chargers to have a dominant line from left to right. It would be awesome, but at some point, development and coaching should come in handy, right? You shouldn't have to depend on just drafting blue chip players and then trotting them out there and expect them to become all pros right off the bat. It's not realistic. Give yourself some options. Attack some other areas. And hey, if you have an area that you think is a strength, if the best player available is a player that can help further solidify that position, don't be afraid to take it. As we get closer here in the next few weeks, I'll let you guys know kind of like my top 3 draft scenarios. What I would like to see in rounds like, 1 and 3 right now, because there's no second round pick, which pains me every time I see a mock draft anywhere. And dude, I need to stop looking at these mock drafts from people who don't actually follow the Chargers. You know how you get like hungry for content, anything to do with like the draft, since it is draft season, and you just start looking at stuff that you ought not be. Dude, there are some people out there that don't know anything about this team at all. They literally must hear whatever people say everywhere else and then just decide to plug that directly into whatever mock drafts they're going to do, because it's literally the same stuff everywhere. Some of the picks are at positions that have already been addressed, and no, I get it, what I just said about like going ahead and solidifying a position, even if it's a position of strength. But I don't think that's what they have in mind. I think they just don't know. And so they assume that because the run defense was so poor last year, that they just need to use all their resources to shore up the defensive front. When, the Austin Johnson, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Khalil Mack all being top tier or above average run defenders, all get signed and or traded for. And now it's just like it never happened. Just go ahead and sign Jordan Davis anyway. Draft Jordan Davis. Whatever the best defensive tackle is, go get them. Make sure that happens. Not necessarily something that has to be the case in the first round. Okay, great. If Jordan Davis falls there at 17, would I hate it? Nope. Because I have an idea about what I believe Brandon Staley would like to do with his defense. And I'll just go ahead. It wasn't really meant to have this be a breakdown of scheme. I think he absolutely wants to play with a light box, which means you have to have some hosses on the defensive line. A guy like Jordan Davis in the middle would really kind of cover up for lack of linebackers. If you wanted to live in like a 4-2-5 defensive set, you get in the dime, you want to play kind of like some 4-1-6 stuff. You got a monster like that in the middle of your defense. I mean, having a light box may not be that big of an issue against the run, especially if you have some safeties that can come up and run support. So there's ways to kind of get around this. And again, it's not necessarily the worst thing if they drafted him at 17. It's not my first selection, but I'm not going to lie to you and say it's not potentially one of them. But like I said, as we get closer to the draft, which is less than 4 weeks away, I'll get more into that. So it's kind of the extent of what I wanted to talk about here today. Again, man, I just kind of wanted to make sure that I got my feelings out about this whole group thing, the whole hive mentality about just believing any and everything you hear from the organization. Because ultimately, like, if you just want to be a sheep, and no disrespect, I'm just blunt, just seriously. I mean, not trying to crap on the way anyone thinks about anything at all. You are entitled to your own opinion. But don't come down on me or anyone else that feels like, hey, there might be something more to things here. Because I would assume in your own life, if there's a pattern or a trend, something that may be going differently than what someone would like for you to believe, that you pay attention to what you're being shown and not just what you hear. Because actions speak louder than words, right? Cool. We can agree on that? Yeah, man. It's late. and I'm a little loopy. I'm tired, and I've been rambling here for a little while. So I'll let you guys go. I appreciate the time. Thank you for stopping in and checking on your boy. Like I said before, I'll make sure to do these more often. But you can always catch me throughout the week. You know which platforms. Charger Chat Podcast. Can't even open my mouth right now. I'm so tired. Where you can see me do the Craig Experience and check those guys out on the main show, and also on the Lightning Round Podcast YouTube page for I Got 5 on it, and also tap in with Jamie and Garrett. They're doing great work with draft stuff and their analysis and everything like that. So also that Discord is popping, man. Y'all should definitely tap in with that. It's a safe space. Lots of awesome conversation going on in there. We let it fly, no holding back, and honestly enjoying it more so than Twitter, which is why you're probably seeing a little less of me there. I won't abandon it altogether, man. You know, definitely gonna pop in and out there as well. So, but as always, you know, y'all don't have to agree with your boy. I'm not looking for you to. Just make sure that all your opinions are based in research and factual information. But you don't have to like anything I say. Whatever, man. It is what it is. Charge it to the game. But until the next time, I'll catch y'all later. Take it easy. It's been fun. I'm out.